first session for the day. So we have with us an eminent personality who has a strong research background and made several research accomplishments. With us, we have Professor Iniyan. Before we begin, a short biography of Professor Iniyan. Dr. S. Iniyan had done BE Mechanical Engineering and subsequently he had done ME and PhD in College of Engineering, Gindi, Anna University, Chennai. He had done postdoctoral research in the Hong Kong University, Hong Kong. He published over 300 papers in the international journals and conferences. During his service, he was Director for Institute of Energy Studies, Director for Placement Center, and Dean for College of Engineering, Gindi, Anna University. He has 35 plus years of experience in teaching, research, and administration. He had 5 international collaborative projects and 7 government-sponsored projects. He has citations 11,000 plus, H index 36, I-10 index 73. He has 5 patents and guided 20 PhD research scholars. He is the recipient of 7 prestigious awards. He has visited 35 countries including USA, UK, Canada, Europe, Japan, Israel, and South Korea. He had unique assignment from Tamil Nadu government as convener Kunagulam Nuclear Power Project. I now invite Professor Iniyan, an epitome of integrity, an icon in the field of renewable energy, to deliver the first session on the art of literature survey. Over to you, sir.
So, good noon to all of you. We had an excellent talk from our Vice Chancellor of Anna University, Professor R. Velraj. And I'm happy to see you all here. I just visualize everyone wearing some white gown and sitting in the Vivekananda auditorium after 3 or 4 years with a PhD degree, right? So, that should be your dream. Okay, so, and yes, I congratulate every one of you having registered here in prestigious university, Anna University. And so before I start, I would like to know how many of you doing registered for full-time research? Full-time research, oh, most of you full-time research. Part-time? Very few, okay, right. So initially I just encourage you, so for the full-time scholars, and I encourage you to do at least 10 hours research each day. Minimum 10 hours research for the full time, because no other assignments. So apart from attending, say, some courseworks, you have a lot of time. And since morning till night, so you just schedule yourself, see that you are doing research at least minimum for 10 hours. Same way for the part-time scholars, you see that you are, say, doing research at least 5 hours after your work, after your teaching assignment in your respective colleges. Maybe you see that you are working at least 5 hours in a day. And if it is holidays, maybe you can do more than that, right? And the puja holidays are going to come. So when the weekends, so you can increase your timings. So that is average minimum for full-time scholars, minimum 10 hours, and part-time scholars at least 5 hours in a day. If you really work like this, definitely you can see the continuous growth in your research. And another thing, so there should be consistency in your research. Okay, and sometime no, you just go in the full speed for about a month. Then after that you go home and you relax for about 1 week or even 2 weeks. Then when you come back, so it will be fresh for you. Okay, so you should not give long gap. So when you give long gap, when you come back, and so it will be like freshly you are going to start. So without leaving a long gap, maybe couple of days you can go home and relax. Maybe you have to attend some functions sometime. So that and all is fine, but then not large gap, about a couple of weeks or 1 month. So you should not take very long gap. Take couple of days, okay, for the gap. I mean, so without giving long gap, if you work really, you can find some good progress. So the consistency is very important for your research. The continual research, right? And so your focus should be like that. Most of you are doing full-time research, and more than your undergraduate studies, more than your postgraduate studies, now you have come for the full-time research work. And so apart from your coursework, so definitely you have to work a lot, and continually you have to work without gap. I mean, without giving long gap, you should kept on working. Then only you can see the progress in your research, right? So, and from the day, I mean, you have started already a couple of months, and then till you finish your work, and anyway, the last session is there, and without losing your stress, and you have to look at your progress, and sometime, no, your paper may get rejected. You should not be depressed. So everything will, it can happen. Even when I was doing my research, in those days, no computers like this, okay, only card punching we had, and so, I mean, not much softwares, okay, and so after doing a lot of, that time only the PCs just introduced, okay, and so I have done a lot of analytical work, okay, with the say mostly handwork and calculators and all. That after 6 months, no, suddenly my floppy, that floppy will be like big one, okay, 1 feet by 1 feet. Suddenly it got crashed, okay, so I lost all my data, right? And so it was really great, depression at that time. But then that time the software was introduced about in statistical package called SPSS. So with that package, within couple of weeks, I retrieved all my analysis. So, that, I mean, nowadays, no, I mean, everything is really, you have lots of opportunities to do research, right? So with this, in today's topic, I'm going to talk on how to collect literature survey, right? So you can move, okay. So, and so the topic, the art of the literature survey. And Vice Chancellor touched many areas of this, how to collect literature survey. And so nowadays, no, within few minutes you can download n number of papers. In those days, the way back in 90s, when I registered for my PhD, I registered in the year 92, I think, right? So that time, so no facilities. So I mean, I have to travel all the way. So if from Anna University Library, so there are some back volumes. In those days, the journals will come in the hard copies, right? And so monthly or bi-monthly or 4 issues in a year. So they connect everything for a few years. They make one big volume. So in red color binding you can see. So that is the back volume. So I went there and then I collected papers and then I have given it for the xeroxing. Okay, so I collected a few papers like that. Then it was not sufficient. I could not find some other journals. So I went to IIT Madras and the huge library and a lot of back volumes. The back volumes means like they collect the various journals, okay, and then they bind it, big volumes, okay, for 1 year for the particular journal they make binding. So I mean that room, no, it is like dark room and full of dust. Nobody will be using frequently. I just searched some journals and then I've given it for xeroxing. So like that I collected papers. Even to collect 4 papers and 5 papers, I may spend even 1 week, okay. So if I go to the library, so after long search, maybe I can get 1 or 2 papers in 1 day. Then it was not sufficient. Then I traveled all the way to Delhi IIT, and then even from the back volumes, so I collected a few papers. Then it was not sufficient. Then I went to IIC Bangalore, and then again I collected papers like that. I traveled, okay, all over India. I visited a lot of IITs, and then I collected papers, and then I started reading it, okay, and so that's what it was going on. But nowadays, so even from your laptop, you can just download just like that hundreds of papers in 1 hour or something. So you have lots of facilities right now. And yeah, so I mean the literature, so as Vice Chancellor mentioned, first of all, you must be knowing your title. And you may not have a proper clarity about your title. You may not have proper objective right now. Everything, no, it's like vague. Okay, and it takes at least 6 months or 1 year to understand your research area. So initially it may be very blind. Maybe now you have given only the broad area of research. Okay, and in depth you may not be knowing anything. So after doing, I mean, parallelly you are doing coursework, and you will be collecting the literature, and then you will be going through all the literature, and then after discussion with the guides, and then you may come to a conclusion. Okay, this is my topic for the research. Now we have given just broad area. So you may not be knowing properly what I am going to do. It takes little time. Okay, so for which the literature survey is very important. Okay, and so now you have the broad area. So in that area you have to collect n number of papers. Okay, you know how to collect the papers. So from your title, from your thrust area, from your broad area, maybe you can give some keywords, the relevant keywords, right? And then maybe find Science Direct or any good publishers. You go there and then you can browse with your keyword. Then you can find n number of papers. And in that you just find out which are the relevant papers. Then you can download it and you can put it in your pen drive. So, and then you can give some other keywords relevant to your broad area. So you can list out some 10 or 15 keywords relevant to your research area. And each keyword you try to fix it in the Science Direct website, and whatever website you can put it, and then you can download all the papers, and then you can put it in the pen drive. So all keywords you can use one by one. You can get hundreds and hundreds of papers, and all papers may not be relevant. And just go through very seriously. If you read the abstract, you may be knowing, so this is relevant to my research. Okay, then you can list out, those journals, and you can copy it separately, which are relevant to you, right? So like that you kept on downloading it and go through, read the abstract, and then if it is relevant, you can put it in the separate file. So like that you can do it. You can do the literature survey not only from the beginning till the end of your research. Okay, till even before even the YOC also you can collect some literatures. So the literature survey you can do throughout your research, but initially you have to spend much time to conduct a literature survey, right? So after collecting maybe around 200 or 300 relevant papers, then you can group it. Okay, so you can have some subheadings, and so in 300 papers your area may be a very broad one, and in that you can have some sectors. Okay, you can make it as subdivisions, so you can group your papers. So some are 10 or 20 papers maybe in the same kind of area, same kind of research, you can group it. So another 20 or 30 papers may be coming under one heading. So you can put the subheading and you can group it. So like that you may be collecting 200, 300 papers, and then you can group it under different subheadings, 20 or 30 papers, so according to the numbers. So then you can segregate like that. Then you have to read the papers. So if you read one paper at least for 10 times, you may understand 10% of that research. So initially you cannot understand everything. Okay, and over and over you have to read the same paper, and if you read 10 times the entire papers line by line, you may get knowledge only 10% of that research work. So like that you can read all the papers. Whenever you have time, you read the papers and you just underline. Better you take, if possible, you can take hard copy of it, the relevant papers. Finally, when you come to 100 or 150 or relevant papers. Nothing wrong to take hard copy and instead of reading in the system all the time. So when you download it and when you read it, so you can take down the notes on that. So you can underline so the important parameters, important sentences, okay, whichever it is relevant to your area, you can underline, you can mark it. You can mark it is very important, okay, and if you don't understand, you put the question mark so that you can discuss with your supervisor. So like that, you can do some homework on that paper. So, and after collecting 200, 300 papers, you can segregate and according to the research areas, then you read it everything, and when you read, when you find it, it is really relevant paper, and then you can download it and then you can start studying on that and underline some important aspects. So it can go on like that. And as Vice Chancellor said, so when you collect more papers, so in your area maybe some scientists will be kept on coming, some professors in US or Canada or Japan. So you may be identifying, okay, so this author, so this professor paper is kept on coming. So he is publishing very good papers very frequently. So you can, when you go through all the papers, you may come to know the authors. You may be knowing the name of the authors because in your collection you can find a lot of similar authors. So then, so you can understand, okay, he is the one, he has done a lot of research in that particular area. Then you can also, then with the name you can browse. You can put, if you identify the right scientist, right professor who is doing an intensive research in your area, you can search by name also. So there are provisions in the window in the Science Direct, okay, you can subject you can put, okay, and trust area you can put, or even the author name if you know. If you put the author name, you can see all his papers. And then you can go through everything. So like that you can use, say, in multiple tools and try to collect as much as possible and collect the right papers and with the high impact journal papers. Okay, so you try to collect papers which has very high impact factor. Okay, and so like that, when you do the literature survey, you have all these things in your mind, and initially when you do the coursework, parallelly you can do literature survey. Don't think, okay, let me finish coursework. It's not like undergraduate course you are doing or postgraduate course you are doing. Of course, you may be doing 2 papers or 3 papers in the semester. So when you studied in undergraduate, you studied 6 papers, right? Now only 2 or 3 papers. So you have other lot of time you have. So you use it for collecting the literature survey, and you can also go through it. Okay, so when you finish your coursework, when you finish all, paper collection, after reading the paper. So when you read all the papers, you will come to know, so these are the authors, so these are the scientists or professors have done lot of research work in these areas. And when you go through the papers, you may get idea, okay, this area is not at all touched so far. Though they have done research in all these areas, in some area, so people did not attempt so far. Okay, so that you can choose and you can start doing research on that. That is a research gap. Okay, so when you go through all the papers, you will come to know, so though they have done everything, but still there is something missing. Okay, and that missing aspect, that is the research gap. So when you identify the research gap, that is your problem. Okay, so that is your research area. Then when you identify which is the research gap, you take that, so that would be your research area, then you can start working on that. So then you will know the objective. So this is my objective. Okay, so when you write literature, there is one chapter exclusively in your thesis. There will be one chapter called literature survey. At least to approximately 100 to 200 papers you have to say mention in your literature survey, right? So, and this is how you have to start working on literature survey. And as I mentioned, you can collect the papers all the time, and when you do the coursework parallelly, you can go through the papers. So after at least 1 year or even before that nowadays, because you can collect papers very easily, even after 6 months time, so you can come to know, okay, this is my research area, this is the research gap I have identified. By going through all the papers, okay, so this was not attempted by any other scientist, which I am going to choose. So that is when you identify that research gap, and at least 20 to 30% of your research is over. Okay, so then you'll have the clarity. Then you can get more papers on that research gap and justifying. Okay, so I have collected papers from various journals in the top scientists, but then this area was not attempted so far. So that area I am going to do. I am going to pick up that area. So authentically you can say, so at the end of the literature survey, that chapter, the conclusion you say, so I collected all these papers, all these authors are saying so many things. All these authors have done research and these are the outputs. But this area is very important, but that was not touched so far, which I have taken for my research. So you have to give proper justification at the end of your literature survey. And after the literature survey, you mentioned the research gap. So this is the research gap I identified after going through all the literature survey. And then from the research gap, you can identify your objective. Okay, so this is my objective. Maybe one or two or three objectives I arrived. So this objective I am going to reach, okay, at the end of my research. Okay, so when you finish your literatures, when you identify the research gap, when you identify the objective, it's a very good. So at least 30% of your research work is over. So after that you can keep on doing research. Okay, so with this introduction, and let me go fast because we have only less amount of time. So the definition of a literature review. Okay, the surveys, scholarly articles, books and other sources. So you can do survey from scholarly articles, the very good papers which has very high impact factors, and you can also refer some recent editions, the books written by very familiar authors, and even from other sources you can collect literature survey. Even from the dissertation, you can refer a lot of PhD theses available in our library. Right, and maybe very good conference proceedings. So they're relevant to a particular issue, area of research or theory. So you can do survey from journals, from conference proceedings, from the books. You can collect literature, and provides a short description and critical evaluation of work critical to the topic. So you can identify the short description from each paper. So when you read the paper, you can have in your own sentences, so this is the work was done by this author. Okay, you can make this little description. Offers an overview of significant literature published on a topic. So so this is about brief introduction. Definition about the literature survey, and literature reviews are conducted for various reasons. So for a review paper, so when you collect the literatures, you can make writing one review paper. So okay, and before start your research or experimental work or theoretical work, so when you are very confident, so I have collected around 200-300 papers, and so I understand each author what they have done in this broad area of research, and you can narrate. You can put lot of subheadings. You can have, say, a brief abstract, and then I can show one example also. Then you can have introduction, and then you can put lot of subheadings. So you can group all the papers under subheadings. You can explain, and these are the authors have done like this, have done like this, have done like this. So you can narrate, okay, from the basic level to till the recent research. Okay. And at least for 10 years of papers, you can collect and accumulate it, and you can narrate beautifully in this particular area. And these are the scientists, so and so has done this like that. You can narrate everything. Okay, and again you can give good conclusion that And these are the areas again have not been attempted so far. So like that you can finish it off, and then you can put all the references, around 200 references. Everything has to be cited inside the text. Okay, and so according to the journal format, you can make everything proper, and then you can communicate. So in those days, no, when we communicate the journals for the publication, we take hard copy, we take at least 3 copies, and then we send it by the post. We spend a lot of money. Okay, so mostly, I mean, it has to go to UK, and then the editor will use that 3 copies to give it to different reviewers. They may be in America, they may be in Japan, maybe in India. So they just send the hard copy again back to all these places, and then they have to go through everything. Then they give the comments, acceptance or rejected, whatever. Then they send it to the editor. Then the editor will send a letter to us. See, to communicate one journal paper, to get the feedback, we have to wait at least for 6 months. Okay, so it's a long process. So nowadays, on the spot, maybe you can just send it by online. Okay, immediately it will reach the editor, and the editor will assign the reviewers, and they give feedback again by online. By seeing the comments, the editor will say the paper is accepted or not. I mean, within 3 months it is possible, but unnecessarily that they take even 6 months, sometimes even 1 year, some journals, because they get lots of papers. They receive plenty of papers, and the reviewers also, they take very long time to review. So though the facilities are there, the timing still, no, minimum 3 months or 6 months it takes. Some journal may they take 1 year also. But see that, okay, and when you go through the journals, hard copy journals, you can see what time they have submitted the paper, what time it got accepted. You just check whether if it is 2 months or 3 months, then it is really good journal to communicate, so that you can get the feedback very immediately. Okay, so and yes, so review paper. So I have written at least 5, 6, 7 papers, only review papers. So after completing the literature review, and you can submit as the review paper itself. So and which has very good high impact factor. So then for the introduction and discussion on a research paper, when you have the literature review, and then you can write wonderful introduction. So the introduction part is very important in your PhD thesis, right? So and your literature review will be very useful to write the introduction part also, right? And then to embark on a new area of research for a research proposal. So you can, when you do literature survey, you can identify your new area of research which was not attempted by anyone so far. And again, it will be useful to make some research proposal. Now your supervisor may be writing research proposals to get funding from the funding agencies. Okay, so when you collect all the literature, and so this would be useful to write some research proposal. You can join with the supervisor, and you can submit research proposal to the funding agency. And if you get the project, you may be getting assistantship even from the project fund, maybe like JRF or project assistant. So that would be possible when you get the research project, I mean through your gate. Okay, so for all these things, so you are doing literature survey. And then reviewing the literature versus literature review. So reasons for reviewing the literature, the informing yourself of what is happening in the field. So when you go through your all papers, you will have the knowledge what is happening in this field. Okay, so I mean what is this area and what is the current happenings. So what was the previous happenings, how the developments took place in that particular research area. For everything you will come to the knowledge of it. Then finding potential gaps in the literature that may point, say, potential research questions. Okay, so you can find the real potential gap. Okay, so when you go through all the papers, so you can identify, so what is the real gap in your, say, research work. And critically evaluating the common typical methods. and facilitating the development of your own methodological approaches. By going through all these research papers, you can identify not only the research gap, and you can identify what kind of methodology you can adopt, and you can identify what are the critical issues. So everything can be identified when you do the literature survey. And the purposes of the literature review, so informing your audience of what is happening in the field. So by going through all the papers, so you can identify what is happening in this particular field, you will have the thorough knowledge, and establishing your credibility as a knowledgeable and capable researcher. So in your area, so you will have very good knowledge. So when you go through all the literatures, so you will have the sound knowledge in your research area. So, and then arguing the relevance and the significance of your research questions. So whatever questions you have in your mind, so when you go through the papers, most of the questions will be answered, right? So for which you are collecting the literature review. So providing the context for your own methodological approach and arguing the relevance and appropriateness of your approach. So these are the purpose of literature review and reasons for reviewing the literature. And researching a topic, the area of interest. Okay, so begin with an area of interest, but avoid topics that are too general. So don't take a too general topic. So it has to be highly specific for your research area. And then overused or outdated do not warrant for further investigation. So you have to take care of all these things. Okay, so begin with an area of interest, but avoid topics that are coming under this. Okay, if it is too general, you need not take it up. So then, is the topic manageable? Ask yourself, am I truly interested in this topic? So when you do the research, the interest is very important. Okay, so after going through all the literature survey, so you will identify the research gap. And so just identify yourself, really are you interested in that particular topic? And if you are not interested, better you tell now itself to the supervisor, I have better interest in some other topic. And maybe if it is necessary, you can also change your topic with the concurrence from the CFR. And because the interest is very important. Unless you have interest in that area, your research will not grow. And when you have real interest, a real urge, okay, I want to do something in this. I want to find some new findings in this area. So I want to bring out some good output in this area. So like that, so you have to love your topic of research. As Vice Chancellor rightly said, even you have to start from the fundamentals. Nothing wrong to go through the 8th standard book from CBSE and even 12th standard books, even the college books, even the textbooks. So better to have the fundamental concepts, the fundamental knowledge. You must have the very strong foundation in that area. That's why, in IITs and all, they have after finishing the coursework, and they have some comprehension viva, right? So in that, the mathematicians will be there, okay, and all kind of professors from different disciplines, they will come and sit and they will just bombard with a lot of questions, okay. So unless you have fundamental knowledge in that particular area, you cannot stand there. So they will not allow you to further research. So the Combri, that is very important in IITs. So in the same way, and here, so what I'm trying to say is, when you have that interest in that particular area, and you will not keep quiet, you will just kept on digging it and find out what is it. Even you will not allow a single word, okay, and so you want to have knowledge completely on that particular area. So that means you have interest in that topic. So see that when you start your research, see that the particular area is really you are interested in. Okay, so does it meet all the assignment personal requirements? So just look at that, whether really it will meet. Okay, so the social should be social relevance, and it should meet all your requirements. So just check it up. Then, do I have access to enough information? Okay, and is a paper on this topic feasible? So, and when you do the research, just the feasibility is very important. If it is not feasible, and better not to take that. Okay, so that the relevance should be very important. It should be socially relevant and it should be feasible. So that is very important. So when you do research, you just identify whether it is really possible. So without feasible, maybe you can have some high ideas, but then it may not be worked out. Okay, so the feasibility study is very important. So, and then finding the literature. So the finding relevant literature can be made easier if you are able to readily access and draw on a wide variety of resources such as reference materials, books, journals, and official publication and archives. So, I mean, when you take when you take a good paper, okay, as VC said, and if you identify that leading scientists in your research area, there may be about 10 scientists, okay, and when you identify the scientist name, even you can put the author name and you can take all his papers, and then you can have, say, I mean, even from that paper you can find a lot of references. So when you download one paper, in that paper they may refer 10 or 20 papers, the previous papers. That also may be relevant to you. Okay, suppose if you collect 100 papers or 200 papers, that alone is not the number, and each paper will have 25 or 50 references. Okay, even in that also you can refer some paper. Okay, so even from one paper you can find from their references you can get 10 or 20 papers. So like that you can accumulate n number of papers and then you can segregate, right? So yeah, even from the books, some of the recent editions, the recent books also you can get some relevant material. And yeah, journals and official publications and archives, that is the very recent development in that particular area. And don't go it alone. So when looking for literature, be sure to call on the experts such as librarians and supervisors and other researchers and practitioners. So, and yeah, you have to have that discussion very frequently with the with the supervisors, okay, and even the other researchers. Maybe they may be in different departments. So as we said, you may, when you go for tea time and you can discuss with them about your research, and they may okay, discuss about their research, and sometimes no, you can correlate each other. Maybe interdisciplinary work also, it's really good. So like that, and better you discuss with other researchers also, and yeah, that would be nice. Then research progress in theory. So don't think that research will go very smoothly. No, it may be lots of ups and downs. Okay, and as I said, when I was doing my research, suddenly the computer got crashed and I lost all my data. About 6 months work's gone. Okay, and but I was wondering whether I can continue my research or not. Okay, so but my friends advised me, don't worry about it. You can retrieve everything. But of course, I got some other package, SPSS system. I did a lot of statistical work on that. I just recovered everything within another few days. So what I'm trying to say is, it won't go very smoothly, and you may be having family problems in between, right? And some happenings may be there, or some marriages will come. Okay, so a lot of events will be taking place in the family, and maybe you may be having other works in the department. Okay, and so, and it won't go very smoothly. It may be ups and downs, but then you should not be discouraged. Okay, you should not be depressed. Maybe the last session will be dealt by Dr. Balaji about this, and so without having any stress, you can really enjoy your research. Okay, and yeah, so the structure of research papers, articles, and so when you write review papers or even the research papers, and you have to follow this structure. That is the title, of course. The title should be very, very impressive. The title should cover your entire research. It may be an abstract of in one line. Okay, so by going through your title, okay, so the editor should, or the reviewer should understand your work. So the title should give 100% clarity about your research. Sometimes no, it may not be relevant title. So the title may be saying something, your research may be saying something. It should not be the case. So the entire research will reflect on your title. Even the thesis title also very, very important. So you may not arrive the right title right now. So when at the end of your research only you can come to know what is the real correct title. So the title of your journal paper is very, very important. It should reflect the entire research of your paper. And then so the author. So author, of course, you should be the first author. Normally the researcher, okay, the scholar should be the first author. Don't forget about that. Then followed by your guide. And if you have, say, co-guide, maybe you can have another author. Okay. And though many times I look, no, they add all the friends. Okay. So 10 or 12 authors. No, it won't be nice, right? In IITs and all, they don't accept. So better scholar and guide and your co-guide. Okay. Maximum 3 authors. And if any partner, maybe any other research scholar, maybe other department, if it is interdisciplinary area, and there should be some contribution. So without contribution, don't just like that add the names, and it will bring down your grade. Okay, so when you go for any further jobs and all, so they will ask what is your contribution. Okay, so and unless they contribute, need not add as authors. And then abstract. So when the editor or the reviewer go through the abstract, by reading your abstract, they should understand your entire work. The abstract should have all the quantitative figures and qualitative figures also. And so it should not be like introduction. So mostly the people don't know how to write abstract. They just give brief introduction. That is not the abstract. So the abstract is the essence of your entire research area, research work on that paper. Okay, it's a complete essence, right? And it should convey your entire research and outputs. Even you have to mention the important results as highlighting results you can mention in your abstract. Okay, so the important findings, the important output from your research. So that should reflect in your abstract. So when they go through the abstract, and they should be impressed. Okay, so that by going through the abstract itself, they will know whether it is really a new paper, anything, some new research or any new findings, they easily identify. They need not go to the entire paper. Okay, the reviewer will just go through the abstract immediately within few minutes, they will identify whether it is really new. Okay, so that abstract should be very, very important. Then introduction. So the introduction about the background of it, the background of the research. Okay, so you can mention and you can bring the relevant research papers. So who are all done this kind of research previously. You can also bring it into the introduction part when you write the paper. But the thesis, you have the literature survey itself, separate chapter. But when you write the paper, so you can add your papers, the previous papers in your introduction itself. And these are the papers have done this research, but then I have deviated from this research. So something I knew I have attempted. So this was not at all attempted so far. So you have to give the justification at the end of the introduction, right? And when you just give brief background, and then you just mention what are the previous works carried out, and you can mention, so this work was not done previously, which I have taken. So that impact you have to give at the end of introduction. So then the methodology, okay? So what kind of methodology you are adopting in that paper, okay? So it may be in terms of flow chart according to your research area. You can give the methodology, the steps, okay, in your research paper. So what are the steps you have adopted? What kind of analysis you have done? So the methodology you can just mention in another topic, and then you can move to the results and discussions. So the results and discussions, and so whatever graph you plot, whatever say chart you put, and it has to be say dealt very clearly, and for which only we all say again and again, you go through the previous published articles. I mean the top papers, the top researchers, just see how they have interpreted the results, how they have beautifully interpreted the findings from the graph, and from it may be bar chart, it may be the line chart, it may be the table. So the results beautifully they will explain. Okay, so when you read the sentence also, you will amaze how particularly the people from say the British people, the papers, UK professors publications, very very interesting, and beautifully they will picture out, so the results in the form of sentences. You just and follow that footprints, you understand that style. Okay, so and when the reviewer read your papers, so they have to be impressed, so that you have to give the high clarity in that, and you may be having lots of results, lots of datas, lots of outcome from your research, but you have to say make in a beautiful sentence form, and you have to reflect all the results in beautiful manner. That technique you can understand only by reading the previous papers over and over, and the top researchers papers, particularly the Britishers, they are very good in writing, right? So then after results and discussion, the conclusion part also very important, and the important outcomes, the quantitatively you have to mention all the results, not qualitatively alone. So the quantitative results should be mentioned in the conclusion, and the references, what are the relevant references, don't put any unnecessary references, relevant references, about 20 or 25 references, and so whatever you list in these references, it has to be cited in the introduction or wherever you used. So in the text, and whatever references you mention, everything has to be listed. Whatever you listed here, everything should be mentioned in the text. So you have to check one and one. Okay, and one technique, so suppose if you send one paper for a particular journal, right, and you give at least few papers references from that journal, because they may be interested in that. Okay, so they want to have more citations. So when you submit a paper in one particular journal, maybe you would have collected a lot of papers from various journals, even from that journal, but don't forget you have to mention at least couple of papers from the journal, okay, and where you are going to submit. So that is very important. So the even editor may be very interested, okay, in our journal whether they have referred any papers. Okay, so and when you give references from that journal, they will be pleased. Okay, so that you can have it in your mind. So that is then structure of the review article. So and the review article is also it will have very good, say, citations. So when you finish all your literatures, when you identify your research gap and everything, and parallelly you will be doing some theoretical work or experimental work, whatever it is, that after finishing your literature review, you can communicate as the review article. And there are journals, they accept only review articles. In energy, there is one journal, Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews. So they accept only the review papers. So you can identify any review papers. Acceptance is there in particular journal. You can identify which journal is accepting review papers. In that area, you can identify and you can submit as a review article. Okay, so in the review article, of course, as I said, the title should reflect the entire content of your paper. Authors, as I said, and your name should be first name and then supervisor and then co-supervisor, right? And then, of course, you have to mention the keywords, important keywords, at least 3 to 4 keywords you have to mention. And so then introduction, you can briefly give about the background of that particular research area. And then, in the literature review article, you may be having 200 papers. Okay, everything you are going to list it out, and you can group all the 200 papers you can put lot of subtopics. Under one subtopic, maybe you get 10 or 20 papers, another subtopic, another 15 papers or 25 papers, like that. You can make lot of subtopics, subtopics. Okay, you can mention like that. Maybe you can include the charts and bar charts or whatever it is appropriate, even the figures, and then you can make a beautiful conclusion. Okay, so so in this area, so these are the people who have done extensive research, but there are still some areas and people not yet attempted. So scientists can consider all these things like that. You can finish your article like that. Then references. whatever you, referred, all 100 papers or 200 papers, everything has to be listed in the references. You have to correspondingly have to check whatever it is available in the text, it should be there in the reference list. Whatever there in the reference list, it has to be there in the text also, right? So, and that is then content of a literature review. So, the relevant literature may take several forms, including books, book chapters, published journal articles, conference papers or presentations, thesis or doctoral dissertation. So, you can collect papers not only from the reputed journals and maybe the reputed international level conferences and the recent good textbook authored by eminent professors or scientists, okay, and then any good thesis also, and even the PhD thesis are available in our library, so you can choose everything. So when choosing sources, consider, is it scholarly work? As VC said, really is it scholarly work? Sometimes no, for the sake of publishing they send something, some junk, okay. So when after 1 year you will understand, okay, this is the right article, whether it is having real content or simply story or something. And some low impact factor, they just accept everything. Some paid journals are there. When you pay $100 or $200, whatever junk you send, they will just accept it. And and you have to be very careful those journal papers. So need not collect all those papers. You just see that whether it is really scholarly article. And does it have application to the topic, and is it based on theory? So just when I look at the article, whether you just identify whether it's just theoretical work or whether it is any application work. So the application is very, very, very important. Of course, people say finish the theoretical analysis, they can submit the paper. Then after doing experimental work, they can submit another paper. It's not a problem, but then you have to identify it's a theoretical work or practical work. So, is the source trustworthy? The researchers may want to consider the following questions when examining existing literature. Is this author an expert? So, when you look at that author, so you just identify really is he expert in that area. So, when you collect so many papers, some authors they frequently you can come across, and then you can put the author name and you can see all his papers. Then you will have understanding really is an expert in that particular area. You can identify like that around 10 or 15 experts in that particular area, and so who published lot of research work in the most say top journals, okay. So and is the source current? So is it current source or it is old source? So you see, and when you collect the papers, it should reveal some recent technologies, recent outcomes, okay, whether it is current or old, okay. Is the source complete, or is the source biased or unbiased? Is the source accurate and logical? So everything, identify properly. So when you go after a few months, maybe when you read lot of papers, you can come to understanding that whether it's really relevant, whether it is really scholarly work or anything biased or unbiased, everything you can easily identify. Then other sources, internet sources by Cassius, primary sources, work that is considered the original report of research providing first-hand information or is the first published account is known as a primary source. Secondary source, second-hand accounts and assembled review of primary sources may include text boxes, magazines, newspapers, televisions, radio, journal articles, but everything you have to give the reference, whether it is primary source or whether it is secondary source. So when you look at an article, immediately you pick it up. You note down the reference. You must have a separate notebook for literature survey. Though you copy all the papers in your pen drive, and you must have a separate notebook, and you have to always note down all the references, the reference, that article reference, the author name, the publishing year, maybe the volume, the number, every title. So everything, the title should be there, and author name should be there, a year of publication should be there, volume should be there, number should be there. Then only you can take the complete paper after few months. Okay, so whatever you come across, better you note down the complete references. guidelines for creating a literature review, and just few minutes more. So rules of thumb, and there should be a source for every citation and a citation for every source. If a source is in your reference list, it should be used and somewhere in the body of your paper. So that's whatever you refer in the text, it should be listed in the reference list, and whatever in the reference, and it should be referred in the text. And a literature review has a number of functions. Okay, bring clarity and focus to your research problem, improve your methodology, broaden your knowledge base in your research area, and context sexualize your findings. So and these functions, just see that by this you can really improve the methodology. So you can see all the methodologies mentioned by the different authors, and by understanding that you can improve your methodology, and you can give better clarity, and you can identify the real research problem. Okay, and you can enlarge, you can broaden your knowledge in your particular research area. So, and by going through all these papers, you can really enhance your knowledge in that particular research area. Right. Then conducting a literature review will help you determine if proposed research is actually needed. Even if similar research published, researchers might suggest a need for similar studies or a replication, narrow down a problem. It can be overwhelming getting into the literature of a field of survey. A literature review can help you understand and where you need to focus your efforts, generate hypotheses or questions for further studies. So asking the question repeatedly, VC was mentioning, you have to ask the right question so that you can get the right answer. So, and when you do the literature survey, and you just identified the clarity of their work, okay, so the output of their work, whether it is really the right one, okay, and then by looking all those things, you can narrow down your problem by identifying the research gap, right? So procedures for reviewing the literature, there are 5 steps involved in conducting a literature review. Search for existing literature in your area of study. So we kept on saying that you have to search the existing literature. So in your research area, so what are the present research work? So what is existing? What kind of work is going on around the world? So to know that, you are conducting the literature survey. And then review the literature selected. So then you have to go through, you have to review the literature, whatever you have collected. Develop a theoretical framework, develop a conceptual framework, writing up the literature reviewed. So after conducting the literature survey, you can write the review paper, as I mentioned. At the same time, you can make the framework, okay, so after collecting the literature work. So, and outline of review process, and formulate a problem which topic or field is being examined, and what are its component issues. Search the literature for materials relevant to the subject being explored, and evaluate the data, determine which literature makes a significant contribution to the understanding of the topic. Analyze and interpret, discuss the findings and conclusion of the pertinent literature, format and create a bibliography. So when you, as I said, when you go through the papers, you can see all these points are covered. So you can take down the notes better. I mean, at least the very relevant papers, maybe 50 or 100 papers, you can download the hard copy, and you can take the relevant notes, and whatever you understood, you can just, and you can write on that paper and have it. That would be very important. Okay. So tips of on formulating a problem: select a topic you are interested in. You want to be fascinated throughout the process and less likely to lose motivation. Choose a topic with a feasible focus, and get help, get it early and often. So this selection of topic, as I said, and you get clarity on your topic, on your title, on your objective after finishing your literature survey. After going through the lot of papers, so when you identify the research gap, so then you will have good understanding about your research area. Till then it may be very vague. Till then you may not have any say clarity. So that's why initially the literature survey is very, very important. After studying everything very thoroughly, and when you have good knowledge on that, and definitely so you can come to the clarity and the conclusion about your particular research area. Data evaluation, selecting literature. Of course, and when you go through the papers, sometimes it would be very useful to do some kind of analysis. So in those papers, so you can come across, different analysis are carried out. Okay, so some tools they would have used. Okay, and you can identify new such tools. Okay, sometimes it may be relevant to your research. Okay, and some software, some tools you can also adopt and for your analysis. So yeah, so when you go through the papers, you can note down all these points. How to read the material. So reading for the big picture and read the easier works first, and skim the document and identify major concepts. After you have a broad understanding of the 10 or to 15 papers, you can start to see the patterns. So yeah, even if you come across some patterns, if you get the opportunity, and so even collecting patterns, of course, very difficult to get the outcome of that paper and all. That's why published papers only can help you a lot. So, and read the material closer. Of course, you can follow all these steps. Okay, read the abstract, read the introduction, read methodology with a close and critical eye, evaluate the results and take decision, discussion with a grain of salt. So you can go through all these steps, and you can make the relevant notes on the left side of your paper. Questions to consider in your review. So what are the characteristics of the key concepts, or the main factors or variables? What are the relationship between these key concepts, factors or variables? What are the existing theories? What are these are the questions, and you can find the answers when you go through the papers, and that answers you can mention, you can put the note of that particular paper in the hard copy. So that would be very useful. Okay, and the research tips, of course, so you can go through it, and since we don't have time, I just skip some slides. 1 o'clock. Yeah, of course, you can follow all these simple rules, and define a topic and audience and research and re-research the literature, take notes while reading. Yeah, the taking notes while reading is very important. So when you read, you may understand, but after that you may forget. So when you understand, you can put the note. Okay, so better you take one, single page output, so that you can write a lot of things the other side. Okay, and choose the type of review you wish to write. Then when you go through all the papers, you may have good idea. Okay, so I can write some review article on that. Keep review focused, but make it of a broad interest, and be critical and consistent. Find a logical structure and make use of feedback, and include your own relevant research, but be objective and be up to date, but do not forget older studies. And you can start with the older studies, maybe before 10 years, how the trend in this particular area, and what is the current trend, what is missing. So everything has to be mentioned in the review paper. So organizing your literature review. So, and maybe the topical order. So you can order it. So after collecting some 200 or 300 papers, you can segregate, as I mentioned, maybe in the topical order, or chronological order, or problem cause solution order, or general to specific order, specific to general order. So you can have some kind of, according to your view, maybe you can make a lot of subheadings and group all your papers in different categories like that. Common errors made in literature reviews. A review is not logically organized. Review is not focused on most important facets of the study, and review does not relate literature to the study. Too few references or outdated references cited. Review is not written in author's own words. Review reads like a series of disjoint summaries. Review does not argue a point. Recent references are omitted. And one thing you should not forget, when you write the review paper, don't do cut and paste business at all in the research work. And it has to be 100% you have to avoid. So when you write the research article, it may be the review paper, and don't cut and paste. But nowadays, no, so the software is easily, it can identify how many words are repeated, how many sentences are repeated, how many paragraphs are repeated. Everything, okay, when you send it to the journal, immediately they check the plagiarism. Okay, and anyway, around 20% is permissible or 30% is permissible. If it is more than that, okay, they just reject. Immediately they reject. So when you write the research article, normally when they collect 100 papers, so they take few sentences one paper, another few sentences another paper, another few sentences another paper. They all cut and then they paste it, and then they make one full paper, and immediately it will be rejected. If you look at the plagiarism check, it will be 100%, right? So, and you should avoid, even from first day of your research, you understand that the cutting, pasting is completely you have to avoid. You make your own sentences. To write your own sentences, so when you read the previous articles, that's why I said you can come to the knowledge of you can improve your writing skill, how they interpret the graphs, how they interpret the bar chart, how they interpret the results, how they form the sentences. So when you go through again and again, you get that kind of style. So then use that kind of style and your own sentences, and you write the entire paper. So that should be very, very important. Writing the literature review. So plagiarism includes all these things. Okay, you should completely avoid it. Right, save your references. So keep record of literature of you collect. You may be collecting now and then everywhere. Whenever you get time, you can collect literature. But then have the track on that. You must have a separate notebook and you have to note down everything. Record where and when you retrieved the information. Use a citation manager program like RefWorks or EndNote. Okay, better to record too many references than have to return a few weeks or months. Hence, you spend hours trying to relocate the document. Sometimes you just put something. No, you have to have proper file name, proper documentation. So everything should be in order. Okay, you should not be confused at all. Okay, citation management tools. Of course, you can use this RefWorks or EndNote. These are the management tools. You can record all your documents under these tools so that you can easily retrieve and you can study. And of course, this is my review papers, a review of solar photovoltaic technologies and a review of wind energy technologies, drying technologies, and all these papers are review papers, and it is having a lot of citation. Okay, so these are, so I want to show some article. So you have to say this is renewable and sustainable energy reviews. This is, they accept only the review papers. So a review of solar photovoltaic technologies. So that's the title. Okay, and and then author name, and then of course my student's name first, and then the addresses should be given, then the keywords should be given. Okay, so this is another paper. So so I just stop with this. So as I said, the literature survey is very, very important for the PhD research work. And when you do the coursework, parallelly you can do the literature survey. And you collect as much as possible which are relevant to your research work. And then you segregate it. Have the proper documentation, right? And over and over you go through the paper. Then you get the style of writing your own papers, right? And yes, you collect to topmost, articles, and from the topmost scientists and professors, you can refer all those papers, and that would be very, very interesting. Okay, so I stop with this. If you have any queries, maybe a couple of minutes you can ask anything if you want.
Good afternoon, sir. That was a great presentation, actually. Sir, my doubt is there are so many pages in the review papers. So I was not able to maintain the time constraint to read the papers. Some papers take 2 or 3 days, some papers take 4 days, like that, while reading the paper. So how do you manage the time to maintain that evenity in reading papers? Or is there any advice to reading such review papers?
Yeah, review papers, there is one advantage is in one review paper, maybe they would have referred some 100 articles or 200 articles about the previous articles. So by going through that review papers, you can have, good picture of that particular research area. So of course it takes long time because you are going through a lot of references, and but by reading one review article, so you can have the thorough knowledge of that particular research area. That is very, very helpful, because instead of going around, instead of you collecting all these papers, that one author has collected all the papers on behalf of you, and if you go through everything in one paper, you can get a lot of information. So but patiently you have to read. Yeah.
Sir, is there any limitations in writing review papers, number of pages?
That is depends upon the journal. So they will mention, okay, so this much be the number of pages, 6 pages or 10 pages. Okay, normally no, for the review paper they don't mention, because review articles, no, it's a lengthy one. So they refer 100 or 200 review papers, reference papers. So, and generally the review journals, okay, the journals which accept only the review papers, they may not mention the number of pages. But if you want to send the review article in normal journal, they may accept, but you have to adopt, you have to follow their principles. They mention, okay, it should be 12 pages or 10 pages. So accordingly, maybe you have to restrict the number of pages.
So it depends on the author guidelines.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
You have to go through the instruction to the authors.
Sir, I have a question, sir. In writing a review paper, because I am a beginner to that research field or research area, I can able to write the body of the review paper. But in conclusion, I don't have any expertise or experience of those research I have not done. So I'm just reading the paper and I'm going to make a review in the beginner stage. So how can I able to conclude that paper, sir?
Yeah, you can say, okay, you would have segregated number of subtopics. Okay, you can mention the areas, whatever areas, in the major area, there are sub areas. So in these different, you can mention the different areas they have done research in this particular field. Like that you can narrate again. Okay, briefly you have to narrate whatever you have written in the entire paper. In few sentences you narrate it, and finally you can give your opinion. So some areas had to be done. Okay, so some areas are missing, and those areas can be taken for the further research by the scholars. So you can also mention some new areas which are not yet attempted. So you can mention that and you can conclude it. Yeah, just it's a summary of your entire paper in few sentences. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. So if no further questions, I thank Professor Iniyan. In fact, sir is my guide, PhD guide. Thanks for our immediate acceptance, sir. Though sir was busy with this official related tour, immediately accepted our request. And as today morning I said, when you look SAR Google Scholar citation, you would have seen countless number of citations through for his great review papers. Still, though SAR has got retired, but still there are many citations which come from because of those research articles and review articles. So that's why we have decided to invite SAR to deliver the talk on this area, literature review area. So I hope through SAR lecture, you come to know how it is so significant for your research work. Once again, I thanks for your passion listening, and thanks, sir, for our acceptance of our request. The token of appreciation, so we would like to present